Hello, everybody. We're here for our live webinar, Artificial Intelligence, a Game Changer or a Challenge in Business Immigration. We already have a lot of people connecting, so we're going to wait for a few minutes in order to get started. We have 60 people already here. We have more than 220 registered, so at least half of that we hope to have today. So it's very exciting. We have wonderful guests. If you can also write on the chat where you are located, that would be great, so that we know where everybody's coming from and joining from. Let's see, Austin, Texas, Chicago, Greensboro.
Oh, there's Jerry.
I'm gonna fix my light before we get started. There we go. Seattle, New York, Miami, Belgium, London, Dallas, Tucson, Arizona. Oh my God, people from everywhere. We have a lot to cover. So if you have any questions, please, on the right-hand side, you're going to have the questions tab. Also, for everybody who's attending and registered, you are going to receive the recording as soon as it ends. And of course, at the end, I'm going to be sharing the CLE credit code for everybody to have their CLE credit. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's get started. 75 people. Great. So hello, everyone, again, and welcome to today's webinar about AI, a game changer or a challenge in business immigration. Thank you for joining. My name is Marianela Mansour. I'm the Global Director of Sales and Marketing here at Joorney Business Plans, and I'm going to be your host today. Our mission at Joorney is to empower international entrepreneurs and professionals in their life-changing endeavors. To help them, we specialize in writing immigration business plans, and we have been proudly providing this service for the last 10 years. In today's webinars, we will explore the ongoing AI revolution in the world and within immigration. Today, we've got two experts with us that I would love to introduce to you. First, we have the one and only Greg Siskind. Greg is a genius, and he's also the co-founder of Siskind Susser Immigration Lawyers and Visalaw.ai, an immigration tech company that's releasing the first AI immigration law research product, which we will be discussing in depth later on. Greg is also the author of the 4,000-page AILA Practice and Procedures Manual, also known as the Cookbook. Our second guest is our own Adam Casole-Buchanan, our head of product at Joorney. Adam is a veteran in the integrated marketing industry with 9 years of experience in digital advertising and digital marketing product development. Adam founded 2 successful ventures in experiential brand activation, and now Adam focuses his time at Joorney Global, leading the new product development. Welcome, Greg and Adam, and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks. It's nice to be here. Adam, it's nice to be joining you for this.
Great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So, Marianela, just let me know how you want us to proceed now.
Great. So we'll start with the webinar. I'm going to talk a little bit about the topics that we will be discussing. So we're going to be covering the basics of AI, followed by a discussion of AI from the perspectives of law firms and also from the government, from immigration. And we will then be exploring some demos, talk about some of the risks, ethical implications of AI, Joorney's stance on AI, and conclude with a Q&A session. As I was mentioning, you can add your questions in the questions tab on the right-hand corner. And at the end, like I said, I will be providing the CLE credit code from the Florida Bar. For those who are lawyers outside of Florida, you can reach out to us to get the complete information about the webinar for your CLE credit approval from your bar association. So let's dive right in. Greg has prepared a great presentation, so let's get started. Greg, you want to share your screen, or do you want me to share the meeting?
Oh, for the slides?
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. Hang on just a second. Unless, do you guys have the slides preloaded, or do you want me to just load them from my side?
We can do both. Let me upload them here if it's easier.
I have them too. I mean, but whatever. Okay, there they are.
Take it away, Greg. So yes, we can start by talking about the basics of AI, right? What is it, and what applications are there in the different industries, and what's all the hype about it?
So, artificial intelligence has been around for really since World War II. If you remember the Alan Turing movie, it sort of like talked about the birth of all of that. And there's not really a clear definition of what it is. So you'll see it a lot of times when it is defined seemingly in different ways. But basically, it's computers doing things that are not automation, where it's just repetitive, but actually are replicating the way humans think. There's a couple of concepts that are worth, at least you'll hear these terms used from time to time, and it's helpful to have a little bit of an understanding of what they are. You'll hear the term algorithms. Algorithms are recipes essentially telling the computer what it is that you are trying to do. Machine learning is a term that's used in artificial intelligence where computers are actually, they pull data from places, and then the algorithms actually can change, and it gets smarter and smarter. So, for example, Siri or Alexa over the years are machine learning tools that are basically all the talking that you're doing to Alexa and Siri is actually teaching in addition to actually getting what you want. It's also, that's how it learns and it improves. Natural language processing is that's what, if you've used ChatGPT, you're already seeing examples of that. But basically, the ability of computers to interact with people with natural language, which is speaking or writing, as opposed to having to actually enter computer commands. And that's why artificial intelligence is so much easier for people to access today than it was in the past. So that's those all sort of lead into, and one thing I did want to mention is that AI seems like it's sort of this futuristic thing, but it's basically just software, and we've been using AI for many, many years, lots of ways. These are just a few examples of things that you will probably use today that involve AI. So if you are marking up a document in Word and you are using spell check or Grammarly, you are using artificial intelligence. If you go on your phone and you go to Facebook or Instagram, I guess, or any other ones, and it will recognize and sort of caption to tag people, that's facial recognition. Or just opening up your phone and with your iPhone, and it recognizes you. That's that. So it comes up in lots of places. What's new in the last year is generative AI, and generative AI is a subcategory of artificial intelligence where it's exactly what it sounds like. It's AI that actually generates things. So it can generate text, it can generate images, it can generate computer code. It can generate sound. So, for example, just today I was playing with something that DALL-E is OpenAI's image generation program, and it's now built into Microsoft's Bing search engine. So you can actually just go in there, and I was asking it to do illustrations of different things, and you just type in basically a description of what you want it to do, and it can do a very realistic or in a style of a certain artist on there. But it's if you go into YouTube and you search Johnny Cash AI, you will find lots of examples. Any artist, actually, the ones that are most interesting are the artists that died years ago. On there, but they've been able to capture their voice, and they may make that use that voice to sing a song that was written many years after they died on there, and it will sound like the person on there. It's really eerie. on there, but it does lots of things like that. The computer code generation is probably something that most of us won't be using, but it will mean that products will come out much faster in years to come and be a lot better because of that kind of capability. ChatGPT is was the revolutionary product that came out last fall. 3.5. It had been they had been working on versions of it. Obviously, it's 3.5, so there were previous versions of it, but there's a fourth version. But there's basically been a space race of sorts with these products, and Google has theirs. Amazon has been investing heavily. I think they own now 25% of a product called Anthropic. Facebook has its product that's there. Apple this week mentioned that they are working on a ChatGPT competitor, and I'm not sure when they're going to release it, but basically there'll be a lot of competition in that space. As far as why lawyers should be caring about these products, there's right now there's four big ones that are here, but there's lots of other use cases for it. But drafting is probably the biggest benefit that we're going to see in our practices. It is the world's best writer because it's basically absorbed millions and millions of examples of writing. So it is excellent as far as being able to assist you in drafting. And because it has so much in its knowledge base, it can be, it's very fast and very prolific as far as what it can do. It's also great for your own writing if you want to, put documents in, writing in, and it'll do instant translations. It'll edit it. So maybe you have I do this all the time. I write a magazine column. I have a 1,200 word limit. I inevitably will be several hundred words over the limit by the time I've done my first draft. And I hate trying to figure out what I'm going to cut. So I'll just feed it into ChatGPT and say, subtract 200 words in the way that will change the meaning the least on there. So, and it's really pretty awesome. It'll find all throughout the document, almost instantly, it'll find 2 and 3 letter combinations that it'll turn into 1 and 2 letter combinations. And it'll read better, even with fewer words than what I originally had done. But anyway, it's the one thing that I think and we'll be talking about it, is that questions about facts and legal research. A lot has changed, even in the last few weeks, on that, with the ways that we're using these tools. People have heard about the Avianca case. If we have time, I'll talk a little bit about that. But there are problems with generative AI as far as using it for factual or legal research, but there are new tools that are available now that solve a lot of those problems. And even the public chat tools can be improved a lot. I'll show an illustration that I was showing Marianella and Adam right before the presentation. That's something I came up with this morning that I think worked well, but you can judge for yourself. But anyway, as far as that goes, like I said, these are just examples of the big generative AI products that are out there. The ones that I haven't mentioned yet that I think are probably going to have a pretty big impact on most of our practices, that's the Microsoft Copilot and Google Duet generative AI products that are there. So basically what Microsoft is doing is Microsoft, by the way, owns half of OpenAI. So they have access to everything that's in GPT to integrate in their products, but they are incorporating OpenAI into Outlook, into Word, into PowerPoint, into all their products. November 1st, I believe, is the rollout date for enterprise users. So a lot of you will probably get to start using it fairly soon. Google Duet is the competitor for the G Suite, and similar idea with incorporating generative AI into all those products. So whether you like it or not, it's going to be in front of your face. Just about every major product you use, they're thinking about trying to figure out how to incorporate it in one way or the other. On the legal side, there are a few products that are that have been out for several months. The co-counsel is the one that's probably gotten the most publicity. And I was really lucky because co-counsel, I spoke last year, earlier this year at the ABA Tech Show on an artificial intelligence topic, but I got assigned the panel last September, and my co-panelist was a fellow named Pablo Arredondo. And Pablo is the co-founder of Casetext, which is the company that created co-counsel. And Pablo heard about when we were talking about what we were doing. I told him about the Ukrainian Shumalina case, the mass case that we filed on about work authorization, automatic work authorization we filed in the Chicago District Court. And he was really fascinated by what I was working on with that, and asked if I would test out co-counsel, be one of their beta testers. They were just at that point using mega firms like, Skadden and some of the really big ones on there, and they didn't really have a lot of small outfits that were testing it. So he asked if we would test, and so last September I got access to co-counsel, which is basically a legal research product that focuses on case law, and for our litigation matters, it was really kind of stunning as far as how capable it was. So we would ask it esoteric questions about that were on issues that were coming up in that case, and it would produce a legal memo on a very obscure topic that was quite good in a matter of a couple of minutes, versus like something that would have probably taken us a couple of days and been assuming we had easy access to all the materials. So that was really cool, and and that product debuted actually in March at the ABA Tech Show. Actually, it debuted on Morning Joe on MSNBC, where they did a live demo for a national audience, and I was actually with them in the studio demonstrating it on television and answering questions about it. So it was kind of cool, that experience. But Harvey, and the last thing I'll mention on that is Westlaw. This kind of shows you that what the belief is in these big companies about it. Westlaw bought co-counsel, or bought Casetext, a couple of weeks ago for $650 million. So it gives you an idea of Westlaw really sees generative AI as the future of legal research. Lexis is in this space, and there are others as well. I put Jan on here because I'm going to show we're not at the level of these companies, but hopefully for immigration law, we will be.
That's the best one, Greg. That should be the first one there.
There you go. But as far as use cases, which is what a lot of you are probably really kind of thinking about, is like, how do I use this stuff in my practice? I kind of divided up into practice management use cases and legal use cases, for lack of a better term. But practice management is that's one that I think marketing copy is the one that a lot of people are using it for right now, whether it's writing blog posts, helping you write articles. It also, you can design, there are products out there where you can create, there have been chatbots for a million years on law firm websites, not a million years, but for several. And that they sometimes will tell you, tell you a little information on the firm, or they might take you to a scheduling page to book an appointment. They're usually fairly minor, narrow tasks that they have, but you can design now chatbots using generative AI, where people can actually ask much more, sophisticated questions about the firm and about immigration law and all that. I mean, you can put parameters as far as what people are getting, but it has increased the capabilities considerably. One thing that we're testing at our firm right now, which is kind of cool, in that space on the practice management side of things. And I guess maybe this goes to the legal side, but we went through this exercise about 2 years ago of taking all the lawyers from the firm on a retreat a couple times and generating question sets, basically pathways of decision of questions that you would normally use to figure out if people qualify for particular benefits on there. And there's about 800 questions in that question set. But an interview is, because you're going into decision trees, is only going to take 10 or 15 minutes of a client's time, even though that pool of questions is vast. on there. So the idea is that initially, if you with generative AI, now we get a transcript showing basically how the questions were answered, which is very helpful in terms of that initial consultation with the client. But we will, with generative AI, what we can do is apply, plug it into the database that we have for all the law library, and the cookbook and all the other material that we have, and ask it to give us an assessment of what they think which categories the person's eligible for, which ones they're not eligible for, what are the red flags that we need to be concerned about in that particular case, all that stuff, and it'll write up basically a report for us instantly. So that's, and the last thing I'll mention is, we're talking about that it's such a great writer, but it's not just a great writer in English. It's a great writer in every language, all the major ones anyway. So it also it does a wonderful job with translating. And you can, if you want to produce content in one language and have it translated into another language, it should do a fairly competent job. One thing that's really weird and potentially wonderful or scary right now is something, there's a product called HeyGen, which I've been experimenting with. And this is one where it sort of combines translating, it combines image generation, but basically you record a video of yourself for about 2 minutes, you read a script that it gives you, and then it will turn you into your online clone essentially, and you can feed it into, you can feed text into it, and it will read. It'll basically make a video of the text with the text that you gave it in your voice, looking natural as far as sounding like what you're saying right now. And then it will, if you want it to say switch to German, it will turn your voice into, it'll do the whole thing in German in your voice without any accent on there. It's kind of a miracle how it does that. But that's there's just an endless supply of use cases that you can use, and I see that one that might be interesting for marketing.
That's both exciting and scary at the same time. And then suddenly you're everywhere on the internet speaking all these languages and you have no idea.
Yeah. So, and somebody asked what the product was HeyGen, HeyGen. As far as legal work use cases, there's just a ton of them that are out there for law, and some of you already know are doing things other than immigration law. So these are some of the use cases for ways lawyers are using them, and some of them are useful for immigration law right now, and some of them are not. But certainly one of the best things I think, especially like if you're preparing something that we're trying to make persuasive arguments, either a petition letter or an RFE response, it's great at poking holes in your argument, so you can feed it in and give it a prompt telling you want it to find the fallacies, find the problems in your arguments, and make suggestions for ways to improve it. It's really good at digesting complex stuff. I'm going to show you in a minute when I start showing the demos of like the one I'm going to show, I think, is the DV 2025 rule, that announcement that came out like a day or two ago on there. And first thing I did, it's great at summarization. So I've summarized it, but what I'll sometimes will do is I'll summarize the document and then I will say, so I can understand it. And then I'll ask it to, okay, now turn this into a client memo. And it'll instantly do that. And then you can email, after you've edited, obviously, you can email that out. But that's an example of something like, any lawyer could do, could probably use that just about every week to keep clients up to date. It does legal research, I've already mentioned. Fact research, one of the things that's changed is that web browsing has been integrated into these generative AI products. So ChatGPT now has Bing from Microsoft as an option where you can ask questions, and that's one of the demos I'm going to do for you, is to show you how that works. Bard obviously connects with Google, so there is the ability to pull information in real time much more reliably than just a few months ago, now that the integrations have improved there. One thing that we've been using for a couple of months, and this is sort of like, if there's one thing that I would say like right now that it has matured enough that it's definitely usable and you should be thinking about using this regularly, I do, is using generative AI as a note taker. Zoom has this now. Zoom just released their version of there's a couple of products out there. I think Firefly is one of them. We use read.ai, READ.ai, but now Zoom has their own competitor version that you can have for it. But what it does is you'll have the video recorded. So it plugs into Zoom Read, and so it's an automatic thing where you probably have noticed sometimes now when you're in a Zoom meeting, it'll have a note taker, a black box for some AI that's actually taking notes. But it will it'll record the video. It'll give you a complete transcription, which is great, but it's not new. But that's been around for a while. But what's the generative AI part that's really, I think, fascinating is it will give you a bullet point summary of it as well. It will figure out based on who was talking, who follow-ups, like who said they were going to do what in that meeting, so that you can quickly figure out, this person has, these are the deliverables that based on this meeting that you have to come up with, and maybe like questions that remained unanswered and all that. But it's a really helpful way to, and what happens with me is I'm kind of the joke in the office because I do the initial consultation and I have to a lot of times do the handoff to the lawyer who's really the specialist and who's really the much better lawyer to handle that matter than me on there. And sometimes I'll try and get that person in on the initial consultation, and then sometimes they're not there, but they will. I mean, now I will just give them the link to this and say, I'm not giving you my notes are usually horrible. That's what the joke is. It's like the notes are useless, and they end up having to basically figure all this stuff out again or ask me a million questions. Very inefficient. But this was a way to solve that problem, which was quite nice. So that's that. But how do you back to ChatGPT? I wanted to say one thing about let's say a little bit about prompts. So all of these tools, to some extent, even the one that I just showed you, to some extent, behind the scenes, there's prompts, even if you're not seeing it on the front end. But the prompts themselves, if you haven't really spent any time, if you just sort of like treat these products like search engines, you'll get okay results, but they get a lot better if you learn a little bit about what you're seeking to do. And I tell people, think of it as, basically you're outsourcing with AI. So outsourcing in your own firm might mean delegating a task to an associate. It might mean delegating a task to a law clerk or a paralegal or somebody outside the firm on there. So I tell people, first off, if you give a first year associate a task to do some research on something, and you give them one sentence of what you're looking for, and then he or she comes back with something that is substandard, and you get all mad that they didn't do a particularly good job on it. You need to look in the mirror, because most of the time it's you're the problem. But it's the same thing with AI, where a lot of times, let me go back. Oops, sorry. No, I lost my place on the slides. But anyway, it's you need to. Here we go. No, that's that one. There we go. But the more detail you give it as far as what you're asking it to do, the better you're going to give it. So tell it how long you want it to be, what tone you want it to take, and you can sometimes give an example of some document that was similar for what you're looking to do, but it will, and then, so that's going to get you better results. The other thing is, if you get results that are not quite as good as what you thought it should be, you can give follow-up questions and say, I was really hoping more on this, or this is, you're kind of on the wrong track on there. And if it's completely off, then you can start a new chat. But what I've seen people do a lot of times is they give up immediately, or they will just start another chat altogether instead of trying to tweak it and figure out what was wrong. It's remembering everything in your session that you're asking it. So to the extent that it makes you'll get a better result, I think, when you just keep working on it versus starting from scratch. This is an example of one of the favorite prompts that I have bookmarked. But basically, if you use, and I don't know if the slides are going to be available, everybody, you're all welcome to copy this on as far as using it. But this is one I really find really helpful when you're sort of researching a practice management topic in the firm. So like, I need to go out and buy cyber insurance, or I need to figure out how to hire somebody that can manage our blogs, or whatever it is that you're thinking about doing. This is a prompt that, it gives a very detailed, role. So you're like basically telling it to act like a top law firm management consultant who's got years and years of experience. You're telling it, I want a 1,500 word article, and giving, making arguments for and against. And you will, anyway, if you try this, it produces really excellent stuff. And why does it work? Because there's zillions and zillions and zillions of articles on these topics that have been combed by OpenAI. So it's got access to really great content. It doesn't work as well in OpenAI when you're asking it, for example, to do to do a case analysis or something like that, because it doesn't have all of that in its data set. All the cases are kind of hidden behind paywalls and that sort of thing. So I'll just mention just a couple of the scary things before we get into, and Adam, you can tell me when you want to jump in, but they always say when, be careful that you don't do something that ends up on the front page of the New York Times. I forget, in terms of being careful. Well, this literally got this lawyer ended up on the front page of the New York Times. And I know most of you have heard about this case, but this was one where a lawyer asked ChatGPT to find cases for it that would help it in its arguments against an airline on behalf of his client. And it was wonderful for this lawyer. It gave all these great cases that were exactly what this guy needed on there. And he was, he's like, okay, are you sure? Yes, we're sure. These are real. Are they real? Yes, they're real on there. And it obviously, we all know the story, which was, it was completely made up. Why did it do that? And by the way, that's called hallucinating in this, and that's a term that most people probably are familiar with at this point, but it hallucinates for a few reasons. One is, what is this actually doing, the software? It's not a human brain. It is guessing, it's literally guessing the next word. And it is how it does that is, with all the machine learning and everything that it has in there, it gets really quite good at figuring out what the next word is likely to be or could be. But it is also, there's something called temperature in the settings for this. And when I show you, Jen, the version I have for right now, we actually can adjust the temperature on there. But the temperature in ChatGPT is set, I think, by default to something called 0.7. And it goes from 0 to 1. And the higher the temperature, the more creative it gets, the more interesting it is. That's the reason why you get these wonderful answers when you ask it to, like, give me this in Shakespearean verse, or write this in the voice of Jerry Seinfeld, or whatever on there. And it's quite good. And it never, and the higher the temperature, the more willing it is to just answer anything on there. If you set it to 0, and you don't have the ability to do that in ChatGPT in the version that is out right now, but if you set it to 0, it'll be quite conservative. And it will tell you, I don't know on there, because, and it will not, and that's how the legal research products are, one of the ways that they're addressing hallucinations is setting the temperature low. But it's another reason why ChatGPT is not a good idea for anything like that. So that's one of the issues. Data privacy is another issue right now that you have to be careful about. What you put into ChatGPT, you should assume is going to be visible to humans in different parts of the world that are trying to review and help train the software, and that it is training that information itself is being incorporated into the corpus of materials that's training it. So you have to you either have to there's a way in ChatGPT that you can go into kind of a private mode and flip a switch, and it won't save your search, it won't save your chat rather, but you can do it that way. Or you can use other products that are even using the GPT's corpus of information, but all the information is flowing in one direction and doesn't flow back in the other direction on there. So that's something that we have in Gen, and I'll show you in a minute.
Greg, we have a question about that actually from Elizabeth. She says, when using AI, should attorney users refrain from including the client's name or client specifics? In other words, are there ethical concerns about its use?
If you're using a product that doesn't that shares information back, or or trains an AI, that's a problem. So some of you may remember a couple of weeks ago, Zoom was in the news. And Zoom got into all kinds of trouble because they changed their terms of service, and a reporter actually discovered it, and it wasn't even, and people were, but basically Zoom said, oh, by the way, these Zooms that you're doing that you think, with your clients and all that you think are all that information confidential, we're going to use that to train our AI, and that obviously created a firestorm, and instantly some big law firms announced that they were ending their relationship with Zoom, and some big healthcare companies that were concerned about HIPAA issues and all that. Well, it took about 24 hours for that company to reverse and completely back off of that. But it was a reminder that you have to read the terms of service and see whether that information is being shared or not. And you have to ask those questions when you're using a product, when you're putting it in any product where you're putting client information, to make sure that. What I will tell you is that, that is, if a company is aiming at the legal market, that's usually more likely to be a company that's, that's the start. What else you can do is, believe it or not, take that terms of service document, that long one that's really hard to read and all that, and paste it into a ChatGPT and says, turn this into plain English for me and give me bullet points of what I'm signing up for. And we'll do a pretty good job of telling you on there. And you can say, is there any, and you can just ask it, or can any of my information be shared with the company on there? And it understands that kind of thing. So you can actually use these tools to help you figure out if they're violating your privacy or not.
That's a good one.
Yeah, dated information. So this bullet point is it's talking, if you're just using ChatGPT 3.5, you're not using plugins or anything like that. The corpus ends in January 2022. They actually just announced a few days ago that they extended it from September 21 to January 2022, but it is not going to be the most current information unless you're using a plugin that connects it to the web somehow, or some kind of other database. Bias, we've heard about that. Basically, that's it's trained on the internet, and the internet is full of horrible, mean people. So it will oftentimes the answers you get will reflect the biases that are out in the world. And finally, copyright violations. That's one that's sort of right now a big fight that's happening, and it's not entirely clear where it's going to land. But so just stay tuned on that one. But know that that's something yet to be determined as far as how copyright holders are going to be protected. Anyway, I have a bunch of slides on ethics, and I just want to focus on this one rather than going into depth, because we're not going to have time. But there's a lot of ethical rules that these are model rules, but most of your states are going to have it. And these are things that you need to think about. You need to think about competence. So the lawyer for the Avianca case, obviously that lawyer did not keep himself abreast of the benefits and risks associated with the technology. Communications, you need to, if you're using this stuff for clients, you need to have a conversation with your clients about it. I think for the most part, if you can explain to clients the benefits of using these tools and why it's going to make your work, raise the quality of your work, help you turn things around more quickly, potentially lower costs if it can, at some point that's going to be the case. Those are things that you can talk to your clients about, and if they have objections, they will tell you. And a lot of clients want you using these tools because they think it's going to make you a better lawyer. And some of them don't. And the ones that don't, you need to make sure that you're not using these tools for their matters unless you decided that you don't want them as a client because you need to be, these tools are built into your day-to-day work, and they can find another lawyer if they want one that won't use the tool. So you can make those decisions for yourself. Fees are going to, I think that it's a matter of time before, when costs really change dramatically as far as how much it costs to prepare these cases because of these tools. But for right now, it's sort of an open question about whether you're under any ethical obligation or not. Obviously, you're investing a lot of money in these tools right now. So to the extent it saves you money, and if you're doing innovative things, you can charge premiums sometimes to clients for things that you're doing that are usable. But I'm putting that on your radar. Confidentiality, we just talked about. Supervision is rules 5.1 and 5.3. The way to look at the way to look ethically at this whole thing is, remember I talked about outsourcing. Outsourcing, there's tons of ethical rules when you outsource to an individual, particularly when you outsource to an individual outside your firm, but even internally when you delegate tasks to people in your firm, you have ethical responsibilities as far as supervising those people and making sure that you have you put your stamp on whatever's going on in your name. That's the same with AI. So basically every time you use AI or use a bot to do something, pretend like you were giving that assignment to a real person, and would you have been in compliance with the ethics rules if it was a real person? And that's a way to sort of think about whether those issues potentially come up. Last but not least, unauthorized practice of law. That's going to be an issue, I think, that also is going to be subject to a lot of debate in years to come about how much access and how much you can put out in the world that clients and others can use to be able to do things on their own with the tools that you created. Basically, can we be like LegalZoom and other companies out there in terms of putting out products? And that's something I think that there will be discussions about because it's already sort of happening in states like Arizona and Utah as far as innovation and the way legal services are being delivered. So that's another one. I'm just flagging these issues for you. I don't think it's we have time to really kind of dive deep into them, but I think those are, that's well, in terms of slides, the only last one I will mention is something that you might consider setting up in your firms as a use policy. And this is basically, an HR policy that is of how lawyers and non-lawyers in your firm get trained on using AI, what they can use it for, how they ensure that they're protecting your clients' privacy and data security, how they are to have conversations with clients about it. By the way, I wrote I don't know if I sent you guys the draft of I have a template for firms that for a AI use policy, and I'm happy to send it to you guys afterwards if you want. Or you can just send me an email if you want. I'll send it to you. But I used ChatGPT, by the way, to help me initially with drafting that. It was awesome on there as far as flagging. It came up with a million things that I would never have thought about that should be in a use policy on there. And I made a lot of edits and all that. But I used that prompt that I showed you before about asking to help me draft put together that use policy. But one of the things that it did, and I didn't even ask it to do it, is it came up with a training module of basically sort of laying out how you roll out this policy. So it's not just the policy, but this is the kind of thing. This is almost all coming directly from ChatGPT as far as this language here on the training module itself. I have no experience in developing training modules on there. So I thought
You
it was,
have now. You have now, Greg.
yeah, but you can see like the defecate, but it gives you an idea as well about it. And so it's something I think that's sort of a clever uh, use of the technology to help you come up with your own policies in your office. So I'll put that in the practice management thing. But that's I'll end the slides now, and you can tell me when I can get to the live stuff.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much, Greg, for that presentation. Really, really insightful. And we're going to see some of the examples soon. So before we get into that, Greg, I wanted to ask you, in different countries, immigration is already implementing AI and machine learning to help officers make their decisions. We actually discussed this in a recent webinar that we had from like in our Canadian branch a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So how is U.S. immigration currently using AI, and what is the impact of that use on applicants and lawyers?
Well, considering the fact that we're still filing most things by paper, there's not a, they're a little bit behind at the federal agencies in terms of how they're incorporating technology, but they are starting to, it is starting to work its way in. Canada is way further along on that. The UK and some other countries are doing it where it's basically algorithms. Those recipes I was talking about are, once you feed the information in about from an application, the algorithms go to work and they make in Canada, they will make a preliminary decision. I guess a decision, if it's a yes, the AI, you're done. If it's a no, it gets flagged to go up to an examiner. And the issue there, when we're talking about bias and all that, is, if a human examiner gets something that was kicked up to it, then they already assume there's a problem with the person. So they're much more likely, I think, to deny a case that gets kicked up to them than if they might have if they just saw that same application without having any recommendation from the or flagging, even though some of it's supposed to be random in there. But I think that's inevitable. That's probably we're going to see more of algorithm-assisted adjudications. That might be a good thing in the U.S. for certain kinds of cases. So EAD applications and advanced parole applications. I mean, honestly, these are applications that are being approved, almost all cases. They're just trying to flag that the information is all in there and that the person has a matching underlying application that's associated with it. Very little work for the examiner, but it is one that, a AI could potentially speed up and improve the user experience considerably for that. But it's obviously pretty scary as well when, we have where we may have this black box problem where the algorithms themselves, we have no idea how the decision was actually made on there. So what I'm guessing we're going to probably start seeing is efforts to try and either through FOIA or other means to figure out how decisions are, what factors are going in. Basically to get the algorithms to some extent about how it's making decisions. There is something that came out from the White House last year called the White House's Blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights, and goes into a lot of those questions, but law enforcement and some other categories, not surprisingly, are excluded, and immigration is probably going to be under the exclusions. I can tell you that it's of concern enough to OpenAI that in the terms of service for ChatGPT, if you go in there, they specifically bar governments from using their product for law enforcement or immigration adjudications on there. So, it's something we need to be vigilant and be, keeping an eye on what's actually happening. But I don't think in the U.S. right now, at least on immigration adjudications, there's not much going on. There is a lot of facial recognition stuff going on at the border, and there's a lot of AI that's working its way into enforcement in ways that we're not probably aware of yet, but is presumably happening. And I would be, I think we all need to be aware of that. This is kind of moving quickly, and that if we are, not vigilant, we're going to find it that a lot of things happened that are hard to undo.
Correct. Thank you very much, Greg. So basically, uses of AI for legal practice, marketing, summarizing documents, generating terms, policies, training, um, being very careful on the ethical concerns for the confidential information. So that's definitely great advice. And we recently did a poll. I don't know if it showed up for you, Greg, from the people who are the attendees here today. We asked, are you currently using AI for anything in your practice? So we have 49% said yes, 43% said no, and we have 8% said that they will start today. So that's a nice share there. So I think it's a great cue for you to show us some of the chat GPT really quick, and also we'd love to see Jen as well, because there are a lot of people here that are really interested.
All right, let me get going on that then.
Let's do it.
I'm going to show. All right, hopefully this won't be too. Tell me if. All right, are you seeing my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an illustration I wanted to show in ChatGPT of something that I just came up with. And ChatGPT, I mentioned, has web browsing now integrated in it. So this was a little test that and actually what I ended up doing was I had pasted something from Word that I wrote out, but I said, you're an immigration law clerk researching whether clients are current under the most recent visa bulletin. And that bulletin can be found at, and I gave the web address for the October visa bulletin. I want you to go to that page and compare the charts to the table below and reproduce this. Now, I don't know if I can show you the table that hold on a second. Oh, sorry. Whoops, wrong thing. Hold on a second. I don't want to show you that. Sorry, this is exactly what I was trying to avoid, but I'm getting a little screen block. Oh, here it is. I wanted to show you in Word. Okay, so this is what I originally wrote up in Word, and the.
So we're seeing your ChatGPT screen only right now, Greg.
Oh, okay, actually that's good because the other screens were popping up. I didn't want you to see, but I had actually written a table, and I just pasted it, and it didn't come out very well. So I was like, oh, this is going to be garbage when it comes out. But what you can see here is the answer to this question. I basically, any of us that have case management, you can export a little file that has these fields in it because you have it for all your clients. But what I asked it to do was to look at the visa bulletin and then look at the final action date chart and look at the filing date chart and give me and tell me person by person based on the priority dates that I set for it and the nationalities and the visa categories, which one of them were current under the applicable chart, under the final action date chart and the filing date chart. Now, I just did this right before the presentation, so I haven't actually checked to see that this is correct on there. I'm hoping it is, but and it should be on there. But it is sort of an exercise of how you could use like an everyday task, how that might work. So that's one example there of how you can incorporate this new web browsing feature. I do want to show you Jen. Actually, I'm going to show you something. Well, I'll show you Jen, and then I'm going to show you a 2-minute video of something that we're working on. But Jen is this is the product that this is not the final user interface, which is going to be changing a lot in the next couple days, but it'll give you an idea of sort of the functionality of it. It has sort of a feel that's similar to ChatGPT, but in the chat function, if we were going to be doing a new chat, you would, oh, sorry, on here, I think I might have to refresh. Hang on a second.
So basically, Jen is going to be a chat GPT, but with valid sources that you've put into it so that they can ask
are you seeing
about,
on your screen right now?
About procedures. Yes, we are. About
okay. All right.
Visalaw.ai.
I'm back in. So first off, in the chat, if we were doing a new chat, you would either go into Law Library or Private GPT. So Law Library is accessing all the materials that we have in here, and I'll show you the in the Law Library. It's vast. There's like every primary law item that you can think of is in here. The CFR, the USCIS policy manual, the code, the BIA cases, the AO cases. Just that's why this is 65 pages of this of the stuff that's these files that are in here. It also has a number of books that are in here. So the Allen House books are in here. The I-9 book, the physician book that some of you may be familiar with. The cookbook is in here, which you heard about at the AILA conference. And the AILA ethics compendium is in there will be in the initial version as well. So you can actually ask ethics questions and not just immigration law questions. But that's the stuff that's in here. And then you can go in and you type a question in, and it'll give you a brief answer. But also what it's doing, it's different than ChatGPT, is it will tell you the sources that it was using to come up with the answer. Actually, this is kind of cool. This feature, this part of it just is the first time I'm actually seeing it. The links were just set up this morning. We've been working on this for a while to make sure that not just the source, but you can actually go and see the actual materials that it was going from. But the idea is that you're still a lawyer and you need to check. It's still, even though, and you can see we set the temperature to 0, and you can see the prompt that you're not going to see this as the user later. But this is sort of the testing mode that we're right now seeing it. But this is the prompt behind the scenes that we're using to get you this. So we've been tweaking it as far as trying to make it the right length and have the citations in there and how you're seeing it on there. But that's the research, the legal research part of it, and it's the goal that we were testing it. Was we wanted it to have at least an 80% rate of accuracy. So we had these lawyers from the firm, most of the lawyers from the firm submit test questions, and they've been responsible for sort of scoring how it's been doing as we've been going in our research. But that's chat. The private chat GPT I explained before, that's that's where you're basically trying to deal with the ethics questions. But basically, you can ask ChatGPT anything from within Gen, and you don't have to worry about any of that information being shared with because of the API that we have set up. None of the information flows backwards. It's all stored. It's all staying within Gen. The last thing I'll show you on Gen is summarization, which is so I mentioned that Federal Register notice. So here's that notice. But in Gen, this is what the summary looks like when you see for that Federal Register notice. So it's a relatively quick read to see everything that's in there, and then I'll show you the.
And you told it to summarize by page, but if somebody wants something short,
right? So you can do a one-page summary. You can page by groups or page by page on here. So you can set how much detail you want to have in there, and you can upload a document in any language you want, and it'll still give you the summary in English. So that's as well. It might be useful for immigration lawyers that have foreign language stuff, and they're trying to figure out what is this. Is it useful for my asylum case that I'm working on? Is it on there? And you can work with the documents that way. We will have full-on translation as well before the end of the calendar year. On there. That's something that's being worked on right now, but we're not going to delay release until we.
Greg, are you able to get summarization of a document, then reuse that as context in chat for generating new content? So you have a user
right now, you would have to just paste it in, but that is something that's on our roadmap to make that possible to do it. The other thing that and I forgot to mention as well, one thing in chat that is important because it sort of relates to this is. You have the ability under the under chat to hang on a second to have a private law for a law library. You can have your own library and upload your own stuff and not just the stuff we have. And you also we are going to have the ability to have custom prompts, and you can use a different prompt on your library as well if you're trying to get it to do something other than just give you an answer to a question. Do you want me to show the last thing at this point? I know we're.
Yes, we can. I mean, we're going to go a few minutes over. If anybody maybe has to leave because it's already 12, they can see the recording after.
I'm just going to tell you what it is that I'm showing you. If hopefully this is recorded, the recording works. The next thing after Jen, that what you're seeing here after legal research is drafting, complex drafting and so we've been working on with a tool that essentially will take you through an interview about what you want in a particular document, upload any of the necessary components. So, and then it will take you through it generates a series of prompts and takes you through step by step the building of that document. So that's something that would normally be maybe 20 hours. Time can be compressed to 15 to 30 minutes on there. So we're starting with O1s. Because we do a lot of O's in our office, and we had a lot of templates to help us work with structuring how we were doing it. But let me try this again. Sorry. Okay. Here we go. So it's compressed into 2 minutes, so you have to watch quickly. But this is the O1. It's picking which documents as well that you're loading up into the supporting documents. You're giving information about where the person's from, what evidence categories you're going to be using in the case. And then this is when you start to upload text from support letters that you're going to be using in the case. We're now about to start adding for like media and awards and all that kind of stuff, the similar idea to this. But you get all that information into the mix, and then you'll see in a second. Now you're starting to see section by section of what it's built out with the generative AI from the resume and from all the support letters that it's found, as well as connecting with the templates that for petition letters we've had in the past. It's doing that section by section of what you're wanting to be there. You make the corrections. If you make a correction, it's actually correcting it across everything and not just in the one section. And you're about to see the output on it in a second. But there's your O1 petition letter. And this is about a 10-page document for right now. But it is it's a really good way to kind of speed up getting started on something. Anyway, we can end with that. And but that's coming. We're hoping this O1 tool will be ready in this calendar year, and something that should be available hopefully soon. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Greg. No, this is definitely saving a lot of time for our immigration lawyers that are listening. At least, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours a week from everything that you've said, Greg. So thank you very much for that. Before I share some of the information about the CLE credit code, I want to hand it out to Adam. And I want to ask Adam specifically about how Joorney Business Plans is currently leveraging AI to tailor business plans for clients in the immigration process, and if we do, actually.
Yeah, thanks, Nella. And Greg, thanks for laying such a great foundation of understanding across not only issues of algorithmic bias, issues of hallucination, but as well as the potentiality to get to a quick ugly draft, which is a term we often use on the product team, using AI to get to a quick ugly draft as soon as possible as an input. And then we always say, always edit with whatever you get. Definitely get eyes on it. It's much like a template with more information. So to answer your question, Nella, currently, we do not use AI or even generative AI in any of the business plan writing that we do at Joorney. But we're currently in a phase where we're researching essentially all the possible ways that we can support our business plan writing process using AI. It's kind of a less so AI to replace anything. We're really looking at AI as an augmentation tool to ensure that we maintain a level of human interaction and that human component, not only on the client side, but even on the writer side, because there's just so much context. It's all the complications of writing a business plan and all the complications of getting a visa, and that takes a lot of human interaction. And we look at, the implementation of AI in our processes, similar to like the paradigm shift you saw with everyone having a Nortel phone, or everyone having the internet, or everyone having a Facebook page, and then everyone buying their own media or social media. And now it's a lot of companies are seeing the next paradigm shift, which is implementation of AI, either as an augmented tool to get to that quick overdraft or get to something you can edit faster. And it's just a natural, almost systemic evolution that I think we're all seeing, not only in the legal world, but globally across every corporate sphere.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adam. So yes, I mean, very similarly to law firms, right? We're trying to be aware of everything that's out there so that we can see how we can use it, but also it's highly risky because a lot of our work not only comes from generating a document out of information, but it also involves a lot of the immigration strategy that is set by the lawyer themselves, of course. So we'll wait and see. So this is to be continued on our side. And to wrap it up, I wanted to ask Greg about what is your vision of the role of AI in the future of immigration law in general and law firms as a whole?
Well, I do think that, well, I mean, it's hard to vision way out, but I think for the in the years to come, I do think a lot of the day-to-day work, I think a lot of the work that doesn't give us pleasure we're going to actually be able to offload onto AI. And for a lot of people, that's probably going to be, the intense drafting work that we have to do on a lot of different things, and a lot of the drudge work. I think that I personally think that relationships with clients are going to be sort of the most important things that lawyers are going to be offering, as opposed to necessarily saying it's just, my brilliant legal mind on there. Not to say that that's not always going to be important, but I do think that there's going to be a leveling of the playing field with the tools that are going to be out, whether it's on research or drafting or having instant, these tools I think are going to make it possible for a lot of people to have higher level practices than they might have been able to do on their own. But I think what it's going to come down to is lawyers are going to get hired for management, being able to manage the technology and manage the process and have have that relationship with clients. You're going to be hired to deliver a legal work product versus now where I think the assumption, and I don't think people are going to care as much about how you got to that work product, but they're going to be trusting you to come up that the tools that you're using are going to deliver the highest level work product that's out there. And that's going to be a fairly difficult change, I think, for a lot of lawyers to sort of think along those terms in the years to come. But that's where I think we're going. It's not going to be in every case. I mean, obviously trial lawyers are still going to have to, until it gets to the point where it's all done by algorithms and the cases are argued, with in front of a judge that's actually an algorithm. That's like way out, but maybe not as far as you think. But for a lot of the kind of practice that we have, I think that's where it's going to be going. Okay,
wonderful. So for that, almost 50% of people who aren't using AI in their legal practice right now, download ChatGPT, explore Gen, explore some of the tools that Greg recommended, and get started so that you can stay up to date.
Yeah. Can I just say one last thing on Gen? Yes. Gen is probably we're looking at the product being completed this month and more widely available. It's not going to be publicly available to everybody instantly, but if you're on the wait list, that's how we're going to be initially rolling it out in groups of people so that we can support it. But that's going to be in the next few weeks. That product's going to be ready.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it, Greg. Okay, so the CLE credit code, I have included it in the chat, but I'll say it here, 2310296 and the letter N. 2310296N. And that's it. Thank you very much, Adam, for being here. Thank you very much,
Thanks for having
Greg.
me.
Thank you.
Amazing webinar, a lot of great insights. So thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.